Well, welcome back. This is going to be part 6 in our short video series of making up this door skin. If you haven't seen the previous parts to how we got to this point already, please go back and watch those just so you can see where we're up to. So far we've cut our sheet, we've put some shape into our sheet, we've formed up the bottom body line and the main datum point body line, if you want to call it that. So today we're going to be turning this top line over. It's got to be sent over that way. So what I've done this week is I've just roughed out a new tool which we're going to put in the Pullmax. So I'll just show you what I've done. So it's nothing flash, but hopefully it will do the job. So I'll go and grab that and I'll show you. Okay, so this is a real basic tool I've made up this past week just so we can turn our edge and get our distance correct, so we turn on this line. So this upper edge here, as we went over last week, that's cut parallel to this line. So we can use that as a stock for our tooling. So all I've done, I've got some square stock, I think it's 19mm bar stock, which fits into our Pullmax. I've just MIG welded that onto a piece of 8x40 or 8x50 flat bar. And then just made up a small piece which can slide over. So this edge, I've put a slight radius on it, and then just got a bolt in the bottom, just so we can lock that off any position we want. So this will be like a universal tool for the future. Now we can have that anywhere in there. So okay, so that will be mounted in our Pullmax, and we'll go from there. All right, so as I said, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this top piece over. Hopefully you can pick up on the camera, but from here it's reasonably flat. There's this line, so to speak, but as it comes to the edge of the panel, it starts to curve upwards. So this is what we would call I guess it's a concave line. So convex would be going this way around, and concave is going this way around. So as that goes over, we're going to need to stretch this metal here. Now, for those of you who are panel beaters or been around metal, you will understand why that will happen. But just for those of you who are not quite sure why that needs to be stretched, I'll try and explain it if I can. All right, so I've grabbed a piece of cardboard here. I've just marked out a rough square. Just imagine it's a piece of steel. So this black line we're going to be calling our fold line, so we're just going to fold this over whichever angle we want. So the distance across the piece of card is 200mm, and it's the same at the top. So it's 200 at the top and 200 here. So it doesn't matter where we fold this, it doesn't change the plane. And what I mean by the plane, this remains flat and this remains flat. Okay, that's simple, right? Easy to understand. Now, all right. Now, when we get into curves, things change dramatically. So again, we've got a flat template, and imagine we're going to use this as our fold line, and we're going to form the material over. So let me just tape this onto the door, just temporarily. Okay, so now we've got a piece of card here, and we've got the line marked out for where we want to fold it. And this is obviously a convex shape or an outward line. Now imagine we wanted to fold this material or send this material over that way. What's going to happen? Anybody? Anybody? I'll tell you what will happen. So when that goes over, the distance around this arc is different to the distance around this arc. So something's going to happen. So just to prove that, I'll just prove the point. I've got a flex rule here. So the distance around that arc, just roughly, is somewhere in the ballpark of 350mm, which is there. So 350mm around the outside of this arc only takes us roughly to here. So the distance around this arc is longer than the distance around this arc. So when we try and, let's take the tape off here. If you were trying to send this around, it's going to have an adverse effect on this material here. So let's see if I can work out how to do that, just roughly. Hang on. Not sure if it's allowing me to do it without actually moving it. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's actually working, didn't think it would work. All right. So this is obviously an extreme angle and all the rest of it. So what that's done, hopefully you can see it on the camera, is instead of that being flat, that's now, it's moved because this material is very strong, this distance is longer, and it's smoother material. Okay, so another way I can show that is if we, let's see if I can put some shrinks into it. This isn't going to work very well, but just for the sake of the exercise. Just imagine these are shrinks. Okay, so that's now shrunk, and hopefully you can see it's now maintained that flat. So we shrink on a convex. You see it going over again. So without the shrinkage, you can see it's got the arc. You put the shrinkage in it, and it becomes, that's now what that actually is doing is making this distance here become the same distance as this distance here. Now the opposite is true when we go with a concave line. So I've got a sample of that. So this is going to be the opposite situation here. So we've got a square rim material. We've got our line mark for our fold line. So this is now a concave arc. So if we were to send this material over here, what's going to happen to this panel here? Anybody? Anybody? Sorry, couldn't resist. So, all right, let's show you what happens. So if we were to try and send that over, wow. So you can see what's going to happen. So that has gone from flat as we send that over. It pulls the material a lot. We're almost making a tube, right? And that's because this distance here is a lot shorter than this distance here, and as you're sending it into the same plane as this plane, you're disappearing the material. So the only way you're going to make this stay flat is you're going to have to stretch this a lot. I'll grab some scissors. So obviously I can't stretch the cardboard, but you would literally have to so if that was stretched, so to speak, and you can see how much extra material you would need to keep that flat. So that's basically the principle of how that works, and that's the same. So we have the same situation with the line on our door skin. So we've got this sharp radius here, and it gets less and less and less, but it's still going this way, all the way to the edge of the panel, less and less. So we're going to have to stretch the material here more, and then continue stretching all the way through, but less and less and less towards the left-hand side of the panel. And that will allow the material to go over without affecting this profile. So if I sent this over now, without doing any work up the top, without stretching it, we're going to get this happen. So the door is going to wrap around, and that's obviously not what we want. And then we'll set up in the Pullmax, and we'll start to send that line over. And we'll do it in stages. We won't do it in one hit because we'll send the panel into oblivion. So we'll do it, send it over a little bit, we'll stretch a bit, we'll send it over a bit, we'll stretch a bit, and we'll do it a bit at a time until we get the correct angle to match the door on the car. So just to explain, so this is the tipping die which we're going to use in the top. It's got a reasonably sharp radius. It's probably a little bit sharper than I would like, but that does match the profile of what we need for the top of the door. So if you turn the skim of the sharp edge, you're making it very difficult to move the line should you want to. Okay. Just here's a new tool. That goes in there. No, yeah. Okay, that's going to be our operating height for the top tool. What I'm going to do is just roughly set the height. Just get us within the eye. Okay, that'll be our starting point with the height. Need to come up a little bit further, but we'll set it up on the piece of scrap. This is going to be our stop. So that will obviously adjust the distance between the body line and our guide fence. Let's get a spanner for that. I'll grab a piece of scrap and we'll do a test run. Okay, so this is just going to be a test piece with a piece of scrap. Now I've just measured on that door skin, so the distance between the outside of the top of our panel and where our body line needs to be is somewhere around 72 mil. So what I'm going to do, and we'll do this a couple of times and we'll adjust it as we need it, just to get it right. I reckon it's somewhere near it, so I'll get a spanner and lock that up. Okay, so I'm just going to start the machine. It's going to be running slow, so I'll have to turn the speed up. Hang on a minute. A bit more. Okay, so I've put a line in the steel, but it's not gouged into it. You can see it's already starting to help us turn the line. So we'll do it, we run it through, and I just lift up a little bit of pressure each time, change the angle. See, it's starting to bend the metal. Okay, so with this particular tooling, that angle is the maximum we can get, because it starts to get close to the tooling. Probably could go one more, but let's go and have a look on the car and see roughly what we've got. So this is our panel. This is obviously the body line that we're trying to send over. Now just to show there, you can see this has got to bend over some more, but we are limited to that tooling in the Pullmax. So once we get to that point on the door skin, we'll probably turn the rest on the English wheel. Because this line will be set somewhat, it will naturally want to go in that place. So next thing I want to do is check that we've got this line in the correct place as far as that distance goes there on our skin. So let's go over to the skin and see what we've done. Okay, so this is obviously the back of the door skin, and the reason I'm showing this side is because this is where we've got all our lines accurately marked out with the scriber. So what we need to do is we're trying to confirm that the distance between the line here, and I'll zoom in a sec, and the top of the skin, which is going to be our guides. We want to try and work out that this is the match, going to be a match for our height. So I'm just going to zoom in. Just bear with me a sec. So I'm hoping you can just about see that line there. So what we're trying to confirm is the distance between this line and the top. So this is our sample that we've just done, and what I'm hoping this is going to be about 1 millimetre longer than what we've got here, because I need to allow for the material coming over. So that line is sticking up about 1 millimetre up top. That's actually pretty good. So I'll check that in a few places. And I think we're somewhere on the money. That's pretty good. Okay, so as far as that line is concerned, and our cut line here, I'm pretty happy that that's going to form that over in the correct position. Fingers crossed. But again, I won't do this on my own, because the panel's not heavy, but it's difficult to handle one person for this particular process. So I'll wait until my co-worker rocks up, and then we'll be into the Pullmax and we'll start to send that line over. We'll check the sweep, and we'll be a little bit backward and forward. So hopefully 10 rocks up soon, and we'll get into it. So sorry for the abrupt stop in the filming there. That door skin actually got damaged from the tooling. The horizontal flat bar, which is part of that tooling, was causing us a problem. So at that point we stopped filming, and then just after that I moved house. I then got man flu. We had visitors from overseas. So now only just now got a chance to get back to filming the rest of this series. So from this point on, we've started a new door skin, and now it's not going to be the right-hand skin. So from this point on, the next skin is going to be the left-hand side instead, because we've been making the pair for the video. So I've modified the tooling. So the top horizontal surface has now been rounded over, and I've also made a like an angled guide fence to go so we can set the angle in the tooling as well. So the filming you'll be able to see is now just done this past week, so hopefully we'll not damage it this time. Okay, let's get back to it.